Welcome, brave souls, to Fear File Chronicles, your one-way ticket to spine-chilling stories and terrifying tales. Tonight, we'll be diving into the darkest corners of the human mind with a story. The Soviet Union is responsible for the death of God. Part 3. Penned by the twisted mind of SouthParkiscool. Together, we'll explore the unexplained and face our deepest fears. But before we begin, if you enjoy trembling in terror, be sure to hit that like button. Share this video with your fellow fear fanatics, and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to click the bell notification so you never miss an eerie episode. Your support truly means the world to us, so feel free to leave a comment below to join the Fear File Chronicles community. Now, without further ado, let's unravel the mysteries of the unknown together as we delve into tonight's fear-inducing story. The Soviet Union is responsible for the death of God. Part 3. Dim the lights and prepare yourself for a chilling journey into the Fear File Chronicles. I managed to save myself one more day. Here are the rest of the entries. Entry 19. My heart's pounding. I don't know where I am, and I can't say for sure whether I'm safe. After I set out with my group, we bypassed the guard by tunneling under heaven until reaching the sewers. I guess the devil thought the sewers would be mostly unguarded. But once we set foot in them, shouting started coming from both directions. Glowing men. My heart dropped. There was nowhere to duck. I shot at the men, relieved to see them combust. As we trekked through the dimly lit sewers, I took note of how horrible it smelled. It didn't matter so much every time we neared a corner. My adrenaline level skyrocketed. Would there be glowing men waiting for me? Would I live? I resorted to just shooting blindly around the corner. It worked 5 times. Eventually, we reached a drain one of my group members claimed was the first one from the city. She told me to follow behind. Since they could hover, they'd just fly up out of the sewer. Since I couldn't hover, I'd climb. But I'd be guarded in a circular formation. From there, I'd shoot any angel coming overhead. Easier said than done. I need to stop expecting ease of force from my end. Once I climbed up to the street, the sonic booms began. A dozen angels flew above the street. I opened fire for my life, taking out each angel as they flew close enough for me to hit. I barely paid attention to what was happening on the ground around me. All I heard were booms, shattering glass, car alarms, and shouting from all directions. At one point, I needed to take cover. I looked around and saw all the chaos. I ran through a shattered shop window and hid behind a table. An angel landed on the ground. I shot at it. It combusted. As I anticipated, another angel revealed itself. A deep male voice hit my right ear.
Are you from the kingdom of the devil, or are you of God?
I looked to my right and saw an elderly man pointing a double-barrel shotgun at my head. Some shouting echoed in from outside. I looked and saw 2 angels sprinting towards the shop.
Are you of God? Answer the question.
I jumped out from behind the table. The 2 angels' eyes widened. They aimed their guns right at me. I grabbed the shotgun wielder by the hips and pulled him in front of me. He combusted into white flames while I jumped behind his desk for cover. I jumped up and fired at both of the angels. Both of them combusted as well. The war went on for weeks. Those weeks weren't so different from weeks I spent fighting wars in the past. In the middle of week 4, I woke up as the sun began shining and noticed how silent the city was. Perhaps all the civilians had evacuated. During my journey through the war-torn city, I came across a restaurant with shattered windows. I took a look inside. The tables were all lying on their sides. Food was strewn all over the floor. As I looked around, a wet, screeching noise echoed from the sky. I looked up. A giant ophanim was about to fly overhead. My heart sank. I jumped through a shattered window to hide in the restaurant. I knew it took several bullets to take out a small ophanim, but I couldn't imagine what it would take to bring down a giant one. The dreadful sound of the ophanim peaked. But once it began to pass, I took note of a television on the far end of the room. I walked up to it and switched it on, hoping to get some news updates. I flipped through the channels until I found a broadcast showing a giant ophanim hovering above a city I couldn't recognize. Many of the skyscrapers in the city were on fire. Then explosions rocked about 10 or 15 of skyscrapers, taking each of them down. Meanwhile, fires were spreading like crazy across the surrounding forest.
And with that, heaven's final option is hammering the city at the center of hell. The destruction of evil in the name of God has begun.
I watched in horror. Heaven's final option. Innocents are dying. People are being tortured. As I fumed, I heard the sound of somebody stepping on a piece of glass outside. I didn't have time to turn my head before I blacked out. I woke up in someplace dark. Feeling around, I felt a cold, hard-tiled floor. What room was I in? Who captured me? I felt around some more and found a lamp. I switched it on, revealing the room I was in. Torn up papers, photos, and posters were strewn all over the ground. Entry 20. After writing up the last entry, I looked through the torn up papers. Some of them depicted God, Jesus, and different angels. Others were pages from the Bible. I held one of the torn pages and read half of what was on it. I crumpled it up and threw it at the wall. The door creaked open. I jumped, hoping it wasn't one of those glowing men. I grabbed my gun and aimed it at the door. I was relieved to see no glow. She had black hair and looked to be in her mid or late 20s. Her eyes widened.
No, it's okay. I'm on your side. Your fellow soldiers are going to be back soon.
I was relieved, but I didn't know who she was. Was she associated with the devil, or was she someone else entirely? I asked her.
Eve, your fellow soldiers need you.
I know they do, I said. We have creatures to eliminate.
You've already pretty much won the war. Don't let your guard down, though, because the angels avenging God are destroying hell as we speak. Your soldiers need you to help them bring in a bomb you and them call the Parakouzma, according to them.
The Parakouzma was an atomic bomb we were developing as part of the construction of anti-anomalous weaponry, following the accidental death of God. I told her this, but I also informed her of the fact we hadn't tested it due to our efforts to conceal our war on Yahweh's spirits. We'd only test it in the most dire of times. Times when a war with the West wouldn't sound so threatening. She told me I was ordered by my commander to help bring the bomb into heaven. I told her I needed to see official documentation, even though she already knew of the weapons development project. She led me to a grand room with shiny marble walls, a high ceiling featuring 3 skylights, and a marble-tiled floor. Several of my comrades were engaged in conversation in one corner. Some faces were familiar from previous missions. Others were new. One of the ones I recognized, Dimitri, confirmed the order was legitimate. Then he said we needed to return to the portal. A pit formed in my stomach. Is it still open? I asked. How far away is it from here? Where are we?
Yes, it's still open.
Vladimir replied.
The devil has our backs. Don't worry. Now, get prepared.
My comrades exited the room, leaving me alone with Eve. Eve moved towards a gold-plated chest, situated to my left. She opened it, reached in, and pulled out a stone engraved with words. She placed the stone on the floor before her. What does it say? I queried.
They're the 10 Commandments. Well, 5 of them. The other stone is still in the chest. I'll attend to that one after this.
She pushed her hair back. I was puzzled by her intent until she drew a jagged rock from her pocket, leaned towards the stone, and began to scrape at the first commandment.
I don't know if you've read my story, but I was manipulated into eating the apple. Adam scapegoated me, blamed me for his irresponsibility. He was punished, as was the serpent. So was I.
She started scratching out the second commandment.
That apple contained knowledge, the understanding of good and evil. That's what God wanted to keep hidden. The devil wants to establish a new kingdom with a new leader. Rumor has it, I'm likely to be that leader. If so, I intend to rectify the injustices Yahweh has done.
She moved to the third commandment, etching away at it.
Job declined the position. He just wants to reclaim his livelihood. Adam finally acknowledged his error in blaming me. The devil said he has no ambition to lead, so that leaves me.
Isn't the devil powerful too? I asked.
Not as powerful as you may think.
She said as she began to scrape the fifth commandment.
He's not the antithesis of God. He merely worked for him. At one point, he rebelled against God's oppressive reign. He wields political influence more than divine power. But anyone can be God with certain knowledge.
My comrades returned. I approached them, resolved to end the impending conflict. I locked eyes with Dmitri.
Are you ready, Artem?
He asked.
Yes, this place is surreal. Almost everything here has taken me aback. But if I maintain my resolve to fight and defend, I should be able to stand against those monstrous entities.
My comrades nodded in agreement. Despite the consensus, I had a lingering question. My location. Where the hell was I? I asked my comrades just as I heard the second stone thud onto the floor.
You're in God's mansion.
Vladimir answered.
We eliminated most of the guards and lower-level staff. We hoped to find Noah here as well, but to no avail. However, they had formidable protectors. It took minutes to neutralize some of them, but we succeeded. We can now proclaim God's throne occupied.
Where's the devil? I inquired.
He's in hiding on Earth. He believes we can pull this off, but we also need to get the 4 giant Ophanum creatures to convene at one spot.
Eliminating their guards and staff should do it, I suggested.
That won't suffice. They can be replaced. We need a significant diversion to draw all 4 to the same location. The devil has a plan which he hasn't shared, suggesting it involves a select few.
He hopes, I echoed.
He estimates a 60% success rate. We're dealing with potent entities.
How powerful is the Paracuzma? I asked. Is it comparable to AN 602?
It's twice as powerful, comrade.
Are the devil and Eve going to take shelter?
The devil revealed that he, Adam, and Eve will be in hiding on Earth, observing heaven's central city being decimated.
Well, all right then. Let's proceed.
We must wait for the devil's allies to arrive. Remember?
I understand, I interrupted. We're mere mortals confronting anomalous entities. But now we have more time to deliberate. What do you think the implications of this will be? We've discovered interdimensional travel. Ironically, it led us to this realm. If the West uncovers our actions, they'll use it against us.
We'll see where we go from here.
I nodded in agreement. This did feel like the beginning of something, and I was destined to witness it. I turned towards Eve. She was reaching into the golden box. Both stones were sitting on the floor, all scraped up. Nobody needed those commandments if they were also commanded to do things that contradict them. Eve, I asked. Eve looked at me while pulling an object out of the box. Thank you, I said.
This will all be over soon.
In her right hand, Eve was holding a golden goblet cup. It was adorned with red diamonds close to the rim.
You're welcome.
Eve tilted the cup. A red liquid spilled out onto the floor. Once all the liquid had been poured out, Eve set the cup on the ground. She stomped on it, making a sizable dent. She stomped on the cup again and again and again, until it was pretty much flat. Then she looked at us.
You guys need to leave. This room is off limits now.
All right, let's go,
Dmitri said. We stepped out of the room, leaving Eve to her business. In the lobby, we met up with the devil's comrades. They asked us if we had everything we needed. We each told him yes. With that, we were on our way to finish this. We marched down the deserted main road, past all the abandoned shops with blown-out windows. We were expecting just a few angels, but then that noise came back, that wet growl. I looked up and saw a giant Ophanum slowly appearing in the sky. The clouds separated for it, and I felt terrified. My heart sunk so deep, I froze for a second. Get to the sewer, I yelled. It was our only way out of this one. I couldn't stress it enough either. It had to have seen us out in the open. One of Satan's men ran to the nearest sewer drain and pulled it right off. My comrades and I were told to go first. I sped down there. Then I began jogging south. I looked behind me, seeing my comrades all having made it down, and the devil's comrades floating in. However, only half of them were in the sewer when a blinding white light beamed through the manhole. One of the remaining comrades shouted, telling us to run. I expected it to take at least an hour for us to get to the portal. But 2 hours had gone by, and we still weren't there. The smell was unbearable. I had no idea if a horde of glowing men were about to swarm us, and we only had half the devil's men we were supposed to have. My fear turned into reality when I started hearing familiar shouting echoing from both directions. Great. It happened so quickly. My memory is hazy, but what I can say is, when we heard the voices, the devil's comrades shielded us. Once they rounded a corner out in front of us, it was just deafeningly loud booms for 5 seconds. We waited silently. Then, before we could count to 10, a couple more rounded the corner. They were shot and killed. One of the devil's men, David, signaled for us to remain quiet some more as he walked towards the edge of the intersected sewers. Before he reached it, a black rectangle with moving eyes peered around the corner and shot David with a beam of light. Dread overtook me. There was a fucking Ophanim down here. Why was I so afraid of them? Other than because they were killer creatures. Their appearance was just terrifying. Creepy. All those eyes. I aimed my gun at it, waiting for it to peer around the corner again. Another of the devil's men started towards the spot the Ophanim was. When he neared the spot, he tossed a grenade. It exploded. The Ophanim hovered out from behind the corner while making the worst screech I've ever heard. A third of it had been blown off. It was leaking heavily and was barely able to stay up. It landed on the ground, continuing to screech. I opened fire at it. 1 shot. It was gone. Eventually, David told us to stop moving. He pointed to a drain up ahead and told us that it was the nearest drain to the portal. This was almost over. Good. But then David told us we were miles away from the portal, so we needed to be quick. As he told us the giant Ophanim were probably hovering around the central city, he got a call on his radio.
This may be shocking, but the devil's plan has failed. We need to get through the portal before any angel finds out what our intentions are.
That couldn't be too hard, right? We climbed out of the sewer. The sweet smell of fresh air was delightful. A great break from the stench. All we needed to do was hurry through the forests. We ran for what felt like an hour. We avoided buildings. We avoided farmhouses. We avoided everything. It was going to take a while to reach the portal, so we discussed hideouts for when we needed to sleep. At some point, we came across a bunker. David told us to get inside. Before I could step in, somebody was shouting in our direction.
"What are you people doing with my shelter?"
I looked to my left and saw a farmer. "Training," I lied. He picked up a shotgun and aimed it at me.
You guys look like those invaders. Get out of here or I'm calling the police.
In defense, I shot him. He combusted. I stepped into the bunker, where I met up with my comrades. After we woke up, David told us we could pile into the pickup truck in the driveway and proceed with the rest of the trip. He insisted on protecting us on our way there. There were 6 Soviets, including me, so 2 could sit in the front and 4 could sit in the bed of the truck. Seemed simple enough. After breakfast, we made our way to the truck. My comrades and I hopped into the truck while the devil's men took their positions around the truck. Then we began our journey down the roads of the farmland. Adrenaline rushed through me as I thought about the possibility of being found and vaporized by a giant Ophanim. About 10 minutes away from the portal, the truck broke down. We pulled up to the side of the road and made the rest of our way on foot across the calm forest. Some moments into the walk, I saw a white light shining in the distance. That was it. As soon as I glimpsed the portal, I heard it. That resounding, echoey growl. A fleeting look upwards revealed a mammoth Ophanim. Immediately, I increased my pace until I was running as hard as my legs would allow. Exiting the forest, adrenaline surged through me. The Ophanim, once blind to my presence amidst the trees, could undoubtedly see me now in the open grassland. It took a few seconds for me to register that the Ophanim hadn't harmed me, even though it certainly could have by now. Its growl resonated from above, a persistent reminder of its presence. Worse still, I could feel its gaze. It burned through my psyche, a chilling sensation that sent shivers down my spine. Without looking back, I reached the portal and sprinted through. I hardly noticed the shift from the warm climate to the icy blast of snow and freezing air. Just before I crossed through the portal, I felt the unnerving sensation of 4 sets of eyes on me and heard 4 distinct thuds behind me. The air grew warmer. But there was no time to ponder this. I had a mission: secure the arsenal where the Paracuzma missile was housed. After retrieving the missile, I was ordered to stand guard at the portal, a task I quickly took up. While on duty, a horrifying declaration was made to my comrades and me. It didn't change my views on heaven or God. If anything, it made them far worse. It happened abruptly. While scanning the portal, I saw an ashen human skeleton being wheeled out by a man enshrouded in flames. It was hard to discern where his flame started and his body ended. His presence superheated the surrounding air. The man flashed me a smirk, then uttered in a voice that sent chills down my spine.
Let this be an example of what will happen if any of you step into heaven again. The flame consumes the wicked.
He turned and stepped back through the portal, returning to heaven. The air immediately began to freeze, but my revulsion remained. When my comrades arrived with the missile, it became apparent that the portal was incorrectly positioned to fire the missile at heaven's core. So, we hoisted the machines powering the portal onto a platform and connected it to a helicopter. Once the helicopter lifted the portal high enough, we carefully aimed the missile at the required angle. Within minutes, we sought the approval of 3 of our commanders to secretly launch the missile. Unanimously, they voted in favor of the launch. It was time. Not a minute after the vote, the missile launched. It soared through the air without a hitch, gliding perfectly. It traversed the portal, which closed immediately afterward. The platform was then gently lowered back to the ground and disconnected from the helicopter. We estimated that the city was distant enough to safely observe from the heaven side of the portal. However, the sight of the ashen skeleton still lingered in my mind. I didn't want my comrades to share the same fate. I showed them the skeleton and recounted the flaming man's warning.
What was his name?
My commander queried. I wasn't told, I replied, but the fact we can't recognize him speaks volumes.
And how will we know if we've succeeded?
At this point, I'd had enough. If this was what portal travel entailed, I'd prefer my normal life. A life already teeming with near-death experiences. I'll go check, I declared. If I don't come back out, we probably failed. I approached the portal. Anticipating a wave of excruciating pain, I paused. Driven by the desire to assure my comrades of our victory, I stepped through. The first sight that greeted me was a massive mushroom cloud. The wind from the explosion was still gusting, but it had clearly subsided by the time I arrived. 2 enormous ophanims lay motionless on the ground, engulfed in flames. Their eyes were lifeless, dull, and gray. A third ophanim was floating haphazardly in the air, left to right. It was also ablaze, though not as intensely as the other 2. Nevertheless, the flames were rapidly spreading. For the first time in months, I smiled. The wild beasts were dying. As I looked up in relief, a flame caught my attention. 4 separate fires were spreading across the grassland. Adrenaline coursed through me. The giant ophanim let out an echoing screech, so bone-chilling it commanded my full attention. Looking up, I saw the gargantuan creature hurtling towards me. My heart pounded. I leapt backwards through the portal, tripping and falling back into the snow. My comrades cheered. Despite my survival, panic still clutched at me. I scrambled to my feet and yelled at my commander to close the portal. I relayed what I had witnessed and saw my comrades grimace. The portal was promptly shut before any flames or ophanim debris could make it through. Entry 21. Finally, I can begin a new entry. After the war's end, I took a few days off from writing. The central government plans to conceal the loss of 1.5 million soldiers to avoid escalating tensions with the West. It's uncharacteristic of us, but what we endured was anything but ordinary. It's an incident we don't wish to discuss. The mechanics of it all are simply too perplexing. Entry 22. I never thought I'd revisit this journal. Today's date is November 16th, 1964. Minutes ago, I discovered a film in my basement that wasn't there yesterday. Ready for viewing. The color film began in a grass field, a forest in the middle distance, and a metropolis skyline far off on the horizon. Suddenly, there was a flash of light. When it dissipated, a growing mushroom cloud was visible in the distance. The film ended after a total runtime of 15 seconds. Witnessing the actual explosion was astonishing. That moment was historical for them. The film came with a letter, which read,
Artem, thank you for assisting my people in the uprising. The new god in power has sealed off my reality from those with malicious intent, so I can finally tell you what I've been waiting for, the right time to say. I knew the right time would be any time after I received your help, as you would have likely taken criticism harshly. What I want you to know is, you and your fellow Soviets need to understand that torture is never okay. I'm not sure if you're guilty of it yourself, but if you are, please change your stance. The Soviet Union is guilty of many of the things it criticizes. Sincerely, the one they call the devil.
All I can say is, I'm glad I started out as a draftee rather than a blunt psychopath. I wonder how things are in heaven, hell, and earth. Hopefully, everyone's in a better place than they were before. Well, my friends, we've reached the end of tonight's chilling tale. The Soviet Union is responsible for the death of God, Part 3, by the talented SouthParkiscool. I hope you've enjoyed our descent into darkness, and that you'll carry a piece of the Fear File Chronicles with you as you drift into uneasy dreams. If our story left you shivering and shaking, don't forget to like this video, share it with others who crave a good scare, and subscribe to the Fear File Chronicles for more haunting horrors. Remember to hit the bell notification so you're always among the first to know when a new nightmare awaits. As always, we appreciate your support and would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Sharing your fears and frights with us truly means a lot, so don't be shy to engage with our sinister community. Until next time, remember to embrace the darkness, for it is within the shadows that our most terrifying stories are born. Good night, and stay scared.